Gildan Media presents Your Coach in a Box, affordable, life-changing audio programs.
Gildan Audio presents an unabridged recording of Jobs to be Done, a roadmap for customer-created innovation by Stephen Wunker, Jessica Watman, and David Farber. Narrated by Timothy Andres Pabon. Introduction. Charting a roadmap to great ideas, a new approach to growth. What do a revolutionary scooter, cat food, and an e-governance platform in Africa all have in common? More than you would think. They are all products of an innovation approach called the Jobs Roadmap. The Jobs Roadmap is a straightforward process that enables companies to consistently uncover new opportunities and generate great ideas. It's based on the groundbreaking work of Harvard Business School professor Clayton Christensen, who popularized the concept of jobs to be done as a surefire way to spur innovation through looking not at what people happen to buy today, but rather at what are the underlying jobs they are trying to get done. By combining a deep understanding of customer needs, attitudes, and behaviors with hard data on the market landscape, the Jobs Roadmap enables companies to arrive at insights and solutions that are original and profitable. It makes the concept of jobs to be done highly actionable. So much of today's current thinking sees innovation as a creative free-for-all, where the best ideas inevitably rise to the surface. Teams sit in front of whiteboards and brainstorm lots and lots of ideas for new products that their company can offer, or they imagine numerous creative ways for their organization to grow. The winning ideas are usually chosen not through any consistent process, but through a one-off assessment of what seems most promising given the information on hand, the company's internal climate, and the preferences of key stakeholders. Rarely are customer insights fed into the process in any meaningful and systematic way, and hardly ever do the results turn out to be breakthrough innovations. Even when organizations hit the jackpot with a new product or service, they soon realize that they don't know how to replicate their success. This audiobook was created to help organizations tackle the challenge of innovating in a way that is consistent and repeatable, using jobs to be done as the cornerstone of a rigorous framework. Our view is that to create innovation, it's necessary to focus as much on the approach taken as on the ideas themselves. In fact, we argue that getting the how of innovation right will in large part determine the quality of the what, the solutions that organizations ultimately produce. Through a detailed but straightforward approach, which we call the Jobs Roadmap, companies can navigate the various requirements of innovation and consistently come up with winning solutions. Customer insight is at the center of the Jobs Roadmap. Understanding what jobs customers are trying to get done and the obstacles they face in doing so points to fertile terrain for new solutions. As a framework, the Jobs Roadmap offers a logical approach to any innovation project, enabling organizations to gain a deeper understanding of their customers and key stakeholders, focusing idea generation on big opportunities, and creating parameters that enable the quick and inexpensive testing of new solutions. Why we need a new approach. The customer is always right, especially when it comes to innovation. Whether they know it or not, customers have the answers for where the next big breakthrough will be. The problem is that customers are notoriously bad at imagining the product that solves their problems and conceptualizing how they would interact with true breakthrough solutions. As Henry Ford reputedly put it, "If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." The trick is figuring out how to unlock the right information that you can get to the winning solution without relying solely on asking people what they want. This critical step is where many innovation efforts fail. When the failure occurs, it's not for a lack of effort. Companies often invest heavily to understand the so-called voice of the customer. They may gather overwhelming amounts of data around current and potential customer behavior, opinions, and attitudes. Problems arise when these organizations try to figure out what to do with all the information. They lack a structured way of determining what's important and what's not. This makes it difficult to figure out the right direction to take. And that sad picture describes some of the more customer-centric organizations out there. More commonly, we find companies relying heavily on very short customer satisfaction surveys and highly circumscribed concept tests. These instruments have their place, but they offer little or no insight into the fundamental drivers of demand, what might cause customer preferences to shift, or where the industry should head. By looking with myopic intensity at data that is very easy to collect, companies can miss critical elements of the whole picture and cast their efforts in fundamentally wrong directions. Even when it comes to new products which seem straightforward to research, companies' track records are dire. More than 50% of newly launched products fall short of the company's projected expectations. Only 1 in 100 new products covers its development costs. Only 1 in 300 new products has a significant impact on customer purchase behavior, the product category, or the company's growth trajectory. Fortunately, the Jobs Roadmap provides a systematic way to beat the odds. Many new product failures can be avoided simply by understanding what jobs customers want to get done. Rather than leaping to foist a solution on the market, companies need to step back, listen to, and observe real and potential customers, including how they react to early prototypes, and then hone in on strategic opportunity areas that show promise for growth. Doing it right. Making the innovation process work doesn't require flashes of genius, nor does it depend on glamorous ideas. By looking intently at customers in the strategic context of the company, great ideas can emerge from simple insights that are easy to act upon. Consider the story of Uber, an on-demand car service that gets you an affordable ride within minutes. The idea isn't revolutionary. Taxis and car services have been around for a long time. In shaking up the taxi industry, part of what Uber brought to the table was a more cost-effective business model. By being a coordinator for drivers who had their own cars, Uber could substantially reduce its upfront costs by avoiding the need to pay for cars and medallions. But simply starting a price war by introducing a lower-cost model wouldn't have been enough to steer people away from traditional taxis. Large incumbents, even in relatively low-margin industries, usually have the resources to weather the storm, even if things are a bit uncomfortable for a while. The key to Uber's success is that its efforts rely on jobs-based principles. It's almost impossible to list all of the pain points associated with traditional taxis. Long waits while trying to find an empty cab, unfriendly drivers using every trick they know to drive up the fare, and broken credit card readers that force you to pay with cash are just a few of the difficulties. Uber's founders saw the problems that customers were facing and set out to offer a better alternative. Starting from the ground up, they produced a solution that would solve the most important jobs and alleviate as many frustrations as possible. The app's interface allows you to summon a car on demand and know exactly when it will arrive. The interface provides fare quotes in advance, and back-end staffers will refund fare overages when drivers take overly long routes. Every ride is charged to a credit card on file, eliminating the need to deal with cash. Beyond eliminating a number of important pain points, Uber focused on emotional jobs that the taxi industry had ignored, offering a sense of certainty and control that you simply don't have as you stand out in the cold, waving at passing flashes of yellow, or sitting in the back of a cab endlessly watching the fare tick up on the meter. By focusing on fundamental jobs and taking a customer-centric perspective, Uber has grown to a $50 billion valuation in a little over 5 years. What leads companies astray? If the route to success is straightforward, why is it so uncommon? We offer 5 reasons why smart companies go astray. First, doing things right requires a modest upfront investment of time. In typical corporate life, none of that is available. For example, Stephen, back in 1999, had the privilege of leading a team responsible for creating one of the first smartphones ever. Until he pushed back hard, he was given a whole 2 weeks from the project's inception to develop the specification for what would be in that device. Really. Second, following the Jobs Roadmap entails asking difficult questions, many of which you'll struggle to answer. This is not the sort of behavior that's rewarded in most organizations. we are trained to be solution finders, from early schooling through to our annual employment reviews. Asking awkward questions can elicit equally awkward pauses when people fumble for smart-sounding answers. You will need to get comfortable with the unknown. In tough questions lies great opportunity. Albert Einstein once said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." Once you frame a problem very well, the answers can be rather obvious. Third, market researchers and product developers can focus too heavily on the superficial questions, probing into whether customers like this or that better. They worry that if they delve too deeply into behavioral drivers, customers will come up with rationalizations that don't ultimately reflect their decision-making process when it comes time to make a purchase. A benefit of the jobs roadmap is that it allows you to target and understand discrete pieces of why customers act as they do, getting at the real root causes of behavior first, and then becoming progressively more specific about the ramifications for the innovation. Fourth, managers seek data to justify their conclusions, and data is rarely readily available about jobs to be done. Data can be produced reasonably quickly and inexpensively through primary research and test-and-learn experiments, but most companies still lack this information. This state of events is actually a good thing. It means that securing the data creates a true advantage for the company willing to do the work. Last, and quite critically, we must discuss Clayton Christensen. As noted at the start of this introduction, Clay was the first person to popularize the notion of jobs to be done, although he is most famous for his concept of disruptive innovation. Aside from Clay's remarkable brilliance, there is good reason why this one man, who mentored Stephen for many years, has produced these two concepts. The disruptive innovation theory holds, in part, that products starting out in small market niches can grow to upend industry giants. Companies already incumbent in an industry tend to ignore these niches, focusing on their business as they've traditionally defined it. For interlopers, though, looking at underlying jobs helps determine whether that niche is a dead end or a route to eventual greatness. By targeting an under-addressed job to be done, a disruptive entrant can attack incumbents in asymmetric fashion, building strength in corners of the market that seem uninteresting to the traditional giants. When the giants awaken, it is often too late to fight off the clever entrant. Disruption succeeds when it targets the right jobs to be done. Map of the audiobook. This audiobook follows our jobs roadmap, which brings readers on a two-part journey to uncover and implement great ideas. In Part 1, Understanding Jobs to be Done, we introduce readers to the concept of jobs to be done and help them construct their Jobs Atlas, a tool that systematically lays out customer insights relevant to the challenge being addressed. The Jobs Atlas has 3 subsections. The first, Know Where You're Starting From, provides a process for discovering and prioritizing the jobs that customers are looking to get done, as well as identifying current customer approaches and pain points. The second subsection, Chart the Destination and Roadblocks, helps the listener to define success from the customer's perspective, while simultaneously determining what obstacles might stand in the way of buying or using a new solution. This information will be critical for translating jobs-based insights into specific product features. The third subsection, Make the Trip Worthwhile, integrates business model considerations into the process of exploring customer insights. This portion of the Jobs Atlas lets the listener determine what's at stake and figure out how to excel over competitors that the company may not have even recognized. Here again is that jobs roadmap. We start with, on the left-hand column, Understanding Jobs to be Done, the Job Atlas, Know Where You're Starting From, the jobs, job drivers, current approaches, and pain points. The second step being Chart the Destination and Roadblocks, success criteria, and obstacles. The third step being Make the Trip Worthwhile, which is about value and competition. Our right-hand column that you can draw is Using Jobs to be Done to Build Great Ideas. Here are the steps. 1. Establish objectives. That's strategy. 2. Plan your approach. Research methods. 3. Build a jobs atlas. That's customer research. 4. Generate ideas. In other words, atlas-based ideation. 5. Reframe your perspective, which is to say, open innovation. And 6. Experiment and iterate, which is all about testing and learning. Now to Part 2. Part 2, using jobs to be done to build great ideas, explains how to turn customer insights into winning solutions. The section lays out a comprehensive innovation process that spans from project planning to ideation to iteration. The Jobs Atlas lies at the center of that process, but it does not stand alone. We start this section by looking at how to establish a project approach that will zero in on the answers management wants. This includes setting a strategic compass heading for the project, building clear guidelines about which opportunities will be in scope, understanding what is uncertain or controversial, and employing research methods that will resolve key issues. These chapters lay the groundwork for the Jobs Atlas to be used effectively. We next turn to what follows the use of the Jobs Atlas, brainstorming new ideas effectively and encouraging people to adopt perspectives beyond the traditional company or industry lens. And finally, we talk about testing prototypes and solutions in an iterative environment to learn quickly and cheaply what works and what doesn't. The section concludes with an afterword that explains how companies can build jobs-based innovation capabilities within their organizations. Included is an up-close look at how we have helped institutionalize and scale jobs-to-be-done thinking at one of the fastest-growing companies in the Fortune 500. As customers continue to have higher and higher expectations from the businesses serving them, product life cycles continue to shrink. To stay relevant and keep growing, companies need to continuously innovate, and those innovations had better be good. Finding a way to repeatedly satisfy current customers and simultaneously attract new ones is arguably the biggest challenge facing companies today. The Jobs Roadmap meets precisely that need. The chapters that follow provide a detailed explanation of not only how to gain deeper customer insights, but also how to turn those observations into breakthrough innovations. We have researched how some of the leading companies around the globe have used jobs-based thinking to create successful and lasting new product lines, and we have combined that with our years of experience in helping companies put the jobs methods to the test in their own industries. As you keep listening, you will learn how these lessons can help create success in the face of your own current challenges. Part 1. Understanding Jobs to be Done. Finding High Potential Avenues for Growth. It's not enough to have a strong vision or a single great idea. To successfully innovate in a way that doesn't mimic every other competitor, you need to see the range of opportunities open to you. A serious customer-centric view of the landscape will tell you what routes contain latent opportunities for you to exploit. It can also lead you away from uncomfortable pain points associated with current approaches and guide you through the pitfalls of getting customers to act in unfamiliar ways. Importantly, a true customer-centric approach will pinpoint the ways in which a new solution has to excel over existing offerings and lead you down the right paths to making money. The central role of jobs to be done. All over the world, people go about their days getting things done. Much of what they do is aimed at satisfying a collection of short and long-term objectives that they see as being related to their well-being. The many decisions that they make throughout the day, which toothpaste to use, whether to drink coffee or tea, what product to buy for their company, are all part of satisfying these objectives as each person defines them. But what if people know only part of what they want, or even more radical, what if they don't really understand why they want what they want? While such confusion at first glance seems like a recipe for innovation disaster, it is precisely in this knowledge gap where opportunities for new growth exist. Throughout this section, we will answer such questions as: how can companies use this knowledge gap to attract new customers or launch new products? How can figuring out the known and unknown drivers of consumer behavior give companies an advantage in the marketplace? And if people themselves don't know what they want or why they want it, how can someone else figure it out? This process for finding growth opportunities is the product of 12 years of our own research and experimentation, which builds on further precedent before then. The core premise is the intuitive but not so obvious idea that by digging into the why of people's actions, you can uncover the set of reasons, emotional, psychological, and practical, that drive people to behave in certain ways rather than in others. Ultimately, people are just trying to get things done in their lives, Whether they are making a purchase for their own use, collaborating in a business-to-business transaction, or consuming a government service, they can employ a wide range of solutions to get these jobs done, so concentrating attention on solutions used, as marketers typically do, is incorrect. It is the jobs that really matter. Once you understand what jobs people are striving to do, it becomes easier to predict what products or services they will take up and which will fall flat. While not the only requirement for successfully innovating or growing, identifying the range of jobs that current or future customers are trying to satisfy is central to any innovation strategy. It guards against pursuing phantom opportunities and grounds the innovation in smart data. The jobs to be done approach, which is explained in detail in this section, creates a powerful method for creating breakthrough innovations again and again. Getting results. The jobs to be done framework succeeds because it focuses innovation on the right questions rather than having them jump directly to devising solutions. This can be counterintuitive. After all, countless stories celebrating genius emphasize the moment of problem-solving insight. But it is actually the framing of problems that often leads to breakthrough ideas. Companies can waste thousands of hours and risk undertaking bad projects because they miss the critical and often underappreciated step of laying out very clear and rigorously defined problem statements. Breakthroughs come from reimagining problems, not from creating an incrementally better solution to a well-understood challenge. To help people look at their challenges in a different way, we tell them to dig into the underlying why of consumer behavior and not just focus on the what. For instance, parents may choose to bring their children to a movie on a Saturday afternoon, but the underlying job is to keep the kids entertained. A movie is just one possible way of satisfying that job. Job drivers, the underlying context that makes certain jobs more or less important, will influence customers' choices in how they satisfy a job. In the movie example, the age of the children or the weather that day might make a difference in how the job of entertaining children is satisfied. The movie theater's true competition is not merely other cinemas, but also playgrounds, arcades, and other diversions. While offering a discount on ticket prices or a better array of snacks might help compete against the cinema across town, these solutions ultimately represent a superficial way of thinking about competition. A better way to win might be to set up a small indoor playground or to offer a space for socializing with dates after a movie ends. By understanding the real motivators of behavior, a company can uncover new markets and previously ignored levers of innovation at its disposal. Map of the section. This section of the audiobook shows how to construct the Jobs Atlas, the overall look at the landscape that is a prerequisite to plotting routes to any specific solution and indeed may reveal destinations you have previously overlooked. Chapters 1 through 3 provide the tools for understanding what jobs your customers are looking to get done, why they prioritize some jobs over others, and what pain points prevent them from being satisfied with the solutions they currently use. Chapters 4 and 5 build on today's landscape to explore how to create solutions that correspond to a customer-generated definition of success, as well as what obstacles stand in the way of buying or using a new product. In Chapters 6 and 7, we look at how to capture value from that change. This includes understanding how expensive new products can be and how new business models can be used to increase value for both the customer and the company. We also explore how to take a broader view of competition, looking from the customer's eyes rather than an industry lens. We urge you not to skip chapters, but to look at each part of the process as a key element toward building a well-rounded view of the opportunity. Equally, as you execute projects, we urge you not to jump to creating solutions before laying out this opportunity landscape in detail. While you will inevitably think of ideas as you learn more about the market, jot them down and don't tempt yourself to fall in love with any particular notion. By the time you are done, you should have an abundant array of solutions stemming from a full understanding of the landscape. They may even appear obvious to you until you realize that you didn't have these ideas before you started the process. Before we get to the next chapter, I just wanted to remind everybody that just because everyone dreams of a new car, it doesn't mean everyone is dreaming of the same new car. That said, let's go over the Job Atlas, and the first step here is to know where you're starting from. First, you have to discover the jobs, which are what stakeholders are looking to accomplish, which are prioritized based on their job drivers. Then you have to determine the current approaches that the stakeholders have adopted and see where they are experiencing what we call pain points. This leads to charting the destination and roadblocks, which involves identifying the success criteria, which is what stakeholders will use to determine their interest in a new solution, and investigating the obstacles that stakeholders will need to overcome for buying or using a new solution. This leads to the final step of the job atlas, Make the Trip Worthwhile, where we assess the value of the solutions that your organization might offer with the intention of beating the competition by defining the playing field broadly and using your advantages. Let's now turn our attention to Chapter 1, Jobs, What Customers Are Trying to Get Done. 1. Jobs, What Customers Are Trying to Get Done. Let me just start by saying that throwing in everything but the kitchen sink, then adding the kitchen sink makes your product bloated, not better. Case in point, in the late 1990s, Stephen led one of the world's first smartphone development projects. His team at Scion plc combined the innards of the Personal Digital Assistant, PDA, which Scion had originally invented in the 1980s with telephony components from Motorola, to create a device with a long list of features. The team was incredibly excited about all of the things the new device could do. You could even send a fax from your phone. But customers were confused, the technical complexity was overwhelming, and the device was quite costly. Around the same time, a Canadian company called Research in Motion was taking a different approach, focusing on a simple hierarchy of jobs that people wanted to get done with a smartphone. Their product, the BlackBerry, did far fewer things and was much less stylish, but it dominated the field for the next 7 years, an eon in that industry. The key to the BlackBerry's success wasn't great technology or clever advertisements. It wasn't about getting the priorities of the customer right. Stephen's team had been diligent about asking people what they wanted. Maps, games. Rather, the Research in Motion effort triumphed because it looked at customers the right way, focusing on a single critical job to be done, keeping in touch through email. Jobs help you to focus on what really matters, rather than trying to add on cool features that muddle the customer experience and make the product less compelling. It is a concept that Stephen really wished he had known about when he designed that device. In this chapter, you will learn why to focus on jobs over past purchase behavior, how to win on both the functional and emotional levels, and how understanding jobs can lead to the better design of products, services, and business models. Using jobs to redefine markets and create opportunities. When thinking about how to launch a new product or bring in new customers, too many companies focus on what people are currently buying. They use existing purchase data to define their markets quite narrowly. They begin to think of themselves as booksellers and PC companies. And then when sales dip or management makes aggressive growth demands, they end up asking the wrong questions. How can we sell more books? How can we build a better PC? This tunnel-visioned approach to market definition creates a very small solution space, and it can blind companies to threats from untraditional sources. Customers' jobs exist independently from what people are buying, making it essential to see the world from the customer's perspective rather than from the vantage of a company that happens to be selling something. As the late Harvard Business School professor Theodore Levitt famously told his students, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want a quarter-inch hole. Snapchat gives a good example of a company that has eschewed industry trends in favor of a customer-centric perspective. Snapchat is particularly interesting because it shows how a company is attracting the notoriously fickle millennial demographic to steal market share in the social media, mobile messaging sphere, an arena that's barely old enough to be disrupted. To a casual observer familiar with the general direction of the industry, Snapchat shouldn't be successful. While Facebook is focusing on delivering enhanced search functionality that allows you to find fond memories among old posts, the ephemeral nature of Snapchat's messages make that impossible. Instagram continues to add new filters and photo editing capabilities, but Snapchat offers just a handful of filters and tools that are on par with the earliest versions of Microsoft Paint.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?